the shadows crawl. Curtains rise, a ghostly sprawl. The frames are whispers, the stories call. Projectors hum in a hollow tune. Moonlight cuts through velvet gloom. Is it a dream or a real too soon? Step into the screen where the dark turns keen. Journey with the cinephile, unseen, unseen. The tales twist and turn as the silent light burns. A world unknown where the shadows yearn.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to Journey with a Cinephile, a horror movie podcast, where we take a deep dive into the world of horror cinema, from the eerie classics to the latest spine-chilling releases. Join me as I explore the history, themes, and artistry of horror one film at a time. Whether you're a seasoned horror fan or just stepping into the shadows, this journey is for you. So dim the lights, embrace the fear, and let's talk horror. And let's do that on episode 304. I am your tour guide of David Garrett Jr., recording out of Columbus, Ohio. And on this episode here is going to be my Voyage to the Fives number 19. My two feature reviews, I got a screener for it, but I ended up going to the Gateway Film Center to watch Hell House LLC Lineage. And I'm pairing this one up with from 1935, not necessarily a horror film, kind of borderline, and that's going to be Maria Marten or The Murder in the Red Barn. What we're doing here, though, is that we have kind of past things that are happening where it causes people to do things they probably shouldn't, and how it sets events into motion that'll change the lives of everybody in particular. So then for mini reviews, my Voyage to the Fives rewatch is going to be The Prophecy. This is from 1995. And then I also have a bunch of screeners I got to check out from Fright Fest, which are going to be Noseeums, Your Host, Pig Hill, and 213 Bones, while ending this out with a 2025 rewatch of Frewaka. So I don't think there's anything else I need to do here then for this intro outside of saying thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy coming on this journey with me. I have a great thing here that I wanted to go ahead and give you an offer for since it fell into my lap and wanted to go ahead and share it with you. I have been given a promo code here for shimmerwoodbeverages.com. These are CBD-infused seltzers that are award-winning. They have been twice recognized by Forbes as the #1 CBD beverage in the United States and the best lower potency option out there. It blends full-spectrum CBD with local Maine fruits and cocktail bitters for bold flavors, crafted without added sugars, caffeine, or artificial ingredients, which, if you know me, that is something that I prefer because, I get enough of the caffeine and I'm trying to get away from sugars. So it's designed for relaxation without intoxicating effects, perfect straight from the can or a refreshing cocktail or mocktail base, depending on what you're looking for there. This has unique flavors like raz lime, chai cherry, ginger orange, and just hemp. Now, Simmerwood offers a health-conscious alternative to sugary sodas or alcohol, made to revive a calm, clear focus for natural stress relief. Each can contains 5 milligrams of full-spectrum CBD for a balancing, calming effect. So this one here is at, like I said, shimmerwood.com, and my promo code here for you listeners is actually you get 30% off of if you use my code, and this is, like I said, a great deal if you can go ahead and you want to do that, and my code is going to be Cinephile1. So if you want to check out more of the information or check out their site, there will be links in the show notes for you to check that out there.
Pod Nation TV has you beamed up with Out of This World award-winning podcast found exclusively on Pod Nation TV. Download Pod Nation TV for Roku and Fire TV. Pod Nation TV, Out of This World.
And for my first mini review here is going to be The Prophecy from 1995. This is written and directed by Gregory Winden. This stars Christopher Walken, Elias Koteas, and Virginia Madsen. This is a dark comedy, fantasy, supernatural, action, crime, drama, horror, thriller film. So a lot of stuff there. This is from the United States, and this is currently sitting on a 6.4 on IMDb and a 3.0 on Letterboxd with our synopsis being: At the scene of a bizarre murder, LA homicide detective Thomas Daggett discovers a lethal heavenly prophecy now being fulfilled on Earth. In his fight to stop the forces of evil, he finds an unlikely ally in an elementary school teacher. So Thomas is being portrayed by Kotis. So this is one I wasn't entirely sure when I learned about it. In college, I sought out this series as I was intrigued. My guess is that there was trailers or stuff on VHS tapes that I owned, or just like multiple movies that we would rent, and so it kind of wanted one that I always wanted to check out. So I originally saw this via Netflix when it had its like mail service, and it would be over a decade since I've last seen this one, so I was intrigued here as a Voyage to the Fives rewatch. And then where I'm going to start is that I can see why I enjoyed this the first time and why I still enjoy elements of it now. The big thing here is I love the premise. God is passive in all of this prophecy that's going on, but we have a second war in heaven, the angels are split, and it's a stalemate. The Archangel Gabriel, who's portrayed by Walken, is trying to make this prophecy come true. He needs the blackest soul on earth to taint other souls in order to flip them in his favor for this war. Now we have Simon here, who is portrayed by Eric Stoltz. He's on the other side, and he uses Thomas, who had faith destroyed by seeing these visions of things while he was in seminary school. So Gabriel isn't above enlisting the aid of worthy, in his eyes, individuals. This is a premise for a horror film that just ticks boxes for me. So delving more into what we're getting here, there are some secondary elements that deepen the mythology. Gabriel is mad at God for showing favor to humanity. We were given free will where the angels weren't. I also like how this prophecy is the lost chapter of the Bible. So part of my contention here with religion is that man has decided what goes into it, and there were some aspects that were removed, as didn't go with their teachings. I love this idea of playing with it and kind of being that there's some darker elements that are missing. So Gabriel can bring deceased souls back, and they're close to the time of death. So he has like Jerry, who is portrayed by Adam Goldberg, and he tried killing himself, and now he's tormented into helping. There's also Rachel here, who is played by Amanda Plummer. So she was sickened in the ICU. Seeing her pain as she comes back and made a slave is well played by Plummer. Now, seeing how little Gabriel cares for humanity, it means to an end to work. So his promise is that it'll be over soon, which is great. So something else to include here is that Lucifer is helping our heroes. In this, he's portrayed by Viggo Mortensen. I love this element, as he's supposed to be the ultimate villain, but he points out that if Gabriel wins, this essentially creates another hell. That diminishes what he did as the first favorite angel. It also is interesting as it is done to drive tension by helping this young child of Mary, who is portrayed by Maura Shining Dove Snyder, as she is harboring this dark soul. It gets creepy with the thing that she said is they were horribly racist, and that was done by the character who was the racist one was Colonel Hawthorne. Now, he passed away at the beginning of this. The soul is the one that they're trying to keep away from Gabriel, and it was put inside of her. That's a good touch. So something else here that works is the story. Let's go over what makes this work is the action performances. Walken excels as his villainous Gabriel, an aloof, inhuman entity whose hatred for humanity drives his actions. Kotis effectively portrays a detective with the understanding of these events, undergoing a logical character arc. Virginia Madsen, who I haven't even brought up, she's good as his teacher, doing what she can to protect her student. And then Mortensen is a great Lucifer. Stoltz, and then we also here have, make sure I get who this person is. Can't find what their first name is. I'm still going to stall for time here as I try to figure this out, as I know the last name, but I can't figure out. Jeff Candenti. Now, he plays another one of the angels that they kind of encounter along this. That is the character of Uzel. Now, there's some brutal things that happen there. I can also appreciate, stuff that we get done with that. Let's see here. I would also say that Plummer, Goldberg, and then there's also somebody here, Steve Heitner. I think they're kind of good in their secondary roles. Snyder performs well, showing the character's transition from normal to tainted by Colonel Hawthorne's soul. The entire cast is strong. Also have to be filmmaking. In general, it's well made. The cinematography and framing are fine. I do think that it does well in hiding the seams of the effects. I love the look of Uziel. There's some brutal things that happen there that I can appreciate. The look and mostly done practical. We did get things at the climax that didn't hold up as well. My guess is these were early CGI, and I'm more positive than negative here overall. Other than that, I thought that the Gregorian chanting and the music fit the atmosphere they were building. It also, as tension also builds as Gabriel gets closer to Mary. In conclusion, we have a highly engaging horror film that excels due to its compelling premise of a heavenly war. It is deepened by mythology surrounding angels and the souls, as well as a stellar cast led by Walken's chilling portrayal of Gabriel. The film effectively balances supernatural elements with human stakes, particularly through those of possessing a young Mary and the surprising alliance with Lucifer. While the filmmaking is generally strong, there is some effective practical effects and atmosphere of music. It's a unique narrative and powerful performances that make this truly a memorable and rewatchable experience. So my rating here for The Prophecy, going to be a 7.5 out of 10. And then up next is going to be a bunch of films I got to check out from Fright Fest over in the United Kingdom. It's going to be Noseeums, from 2025. This was directed by Raven Deshay Carter, who also co-wrote this with Jason Michael Anthony and Hendrik Joseph. This stars Aaliyah Burt, Jasmine Gia Nguyen, and Trisha Arozokete. I think it might be how you pronounce that. If I mispronounced it, sorry about that. But it's a horror film that is from the United States. This is currently sitting on a 7.3 on IMDb, and not enough ratings on Letterboxd, but I would say it's unfortunately like a 2 to probably like a 3.5 star movie over there. I know it's a little bit of a range there, but I'm just going off the 2 highest peaks that were on there. And the synopsis is, what begins as a spring break getaway spirals into a nightmare when something ancient and vengeful awakens beneath the surface with past that refuses to stay dead. So like I said, got to see this via screener thanks to Kier from Strike Media. So what intrigued me is that this was playing at Fright Fest over in the United Kingdom, and I tend to get recommendations from there. Other than seeing the title and knowing this was a 2025 horror film, I came to this one blind. And where I'm going to start here is that this one has an interesting message that it's trying to convey. I think I'm going to end up seeing most people who see this are going to be annoyed and call it woke. My stance is that if you have a message to say, I appreciate that. I do think that this goes a little bit heavy-handed with some of the things that it's trying to do with that. It's good, though. I think that we have some younger people as the leads, and I think that's where I kind of struggle to connect a little bit. And they kind of fight over things that I'm like, okay, I thought about them when I was younger, and the situations they get into do kind of make a little bit of sense. So with that set up, let's kind of delve into what we're getting here. We start with one of the big things is that in this classroom we have a professor brings up, it's dealing with generational trauma. So our main character of Ember, who's portrayed by Bert, pushes back and states that it can also be therapeutic. Now, our professor agrees to an extent while making her point. This is something I could see people having issues with. Abigail, who is portrayed by Tabby Getzy, this is her friend of Ember. She kind of factors back in here. So Ember and even the friend of Tessa, who is Ember's roommate, who is portrayed by Gwen. Now, they kind of have an issue, and they point out that they're only friends with this girl because she has money, stuff, and properties that, she's kind of this rich girl, and they're kind of taking advantage of it to have fun. Abigail makes a comment that they don't seem to mind using it, and Ember makes a kind of one back saying that's the only reason. I'll be honest, that comment does make me seem a little bit harsh, or makes these characters seem harsh. She's probably not fully wrong, though. Abigail and her other friend of Lexi, who is portrayed by Jessie Roddy, they're definitely mean girls. You could say that Tessa has her moments. We also get some tension here with a scene where Ember is dancing to a rap song. Abigail joins her, which annoys her, and then they're singing along, and Abigail drops a word that she shouldn't. This is an interesting concept to include, and I'm not happy to say that I've probably done similar things. Saying words I probably shouldn't have, just getting caught up with a song. This is where I'm learning and trying to grow into play here, and this is where the Abigail character hasn't yet. There's another commentary that we have families like Abigail and what they do to get that. This factors in with a nightmare that Ember has, and I like all of this because Ember is actually seeing this older black woman who is being attacked by a white man. And it also kind of factors in with things that we learned about while they were in that class. So we have the idea here of sins of the past are being revisited on the children, and that's a good trope to use. It does go a bit generic, unfortunately, and it feels like a little bit like of a modern Ghostly where it goes. But connecting all these dots fast is one way you can do that. It doesn't take long. It runs under 90 minutes, and I do love that they don't waste time or using too much filler. It just feels like we have two stories that are running concurrently, and they didn't do enough to bring them together. Let's then shift over to talk about the acting performances. There's an amateur feel, which isn't necessarily bad. Bert, as our lead, admirably stands up to her bullying friends. Now, Gwen's wavering loyalty to Ember is clear and grows with time. Getzy and Roddy complete this trip group as the Mean Girls. We also have Trisha Arozoketa, who is a wronged figure from the past needing resolution. Now, we also have some other people here. If I can try to pull up their names really quick, is that we have Tyler Bibb, there's Chloe Brito. I would also include here Quinn Cote, and some of the other ones round out this cast for what was needed. All that's left then to be filmmaking techniques. This is well made with like a modern gothic film with good cinematography and framing. Ember, influenced by benevolent ghosts, sees things that others don't, needing her help. This also feel like it's driving her to madness. While practical effects are good, some CGI was less impressive. It's unavoidable, though. The soundtrack and design were fitting to help build this atmosphere for what was needed. In conclusion, this is a modern gothic film that explores interesting themes of generational trauma and social commentary. Though it occasionally feels heavy-handed, while the narrative sometimes struggles to fully merge its concurrent storylines, the film benefits from a concise runtime and generally strong performances from our lead cast, particularly Bert. Despite being an amateur acting and less impressive CGI, the overall filmmaking, including cinematography and atmospheric design, helps to craft an engaging experience that delves into the sins of the past. So my rating here for Noseeums is going to be a 6.5 out of 10, and this one I wouldn't be shocked if it is hitting VOD here soon. Then up next, another one from Fright Fest is going to be Your Host. This was from 2025, directed by D.W. Mendoff. This is written by Joey Miller, stars Jackie Earle Haley, Ella Ray Smith, and Jamie Flatters. This is a horror film that is from the United States. It is currently sitting on a 7.0 on IMDb, and not enough ratings on Letterboxd, but I would say about a 3 to a 3.5 star movie over there, with the synopsis being: 4 friends are trapped in a sadistic game show, forced to outwit a twisted serial killer while racing against time. Every move brings them closer to freedom or a gruesome fate. So this one, again, Fright Fest screener, thanks to Strike Media. Now, I had to say this when I heard buzz. Now, there was some things for me that really kind of caught my attention. Was Haley, an actor I'm a fan of, was in it. Now, I came into this one blind, aside from knowing that this was a 2025 horror film, and I know my buddy Ken over on Sledgehammer Horror was also a big fan. So this one, I decided to go a little bit lighter on kind of giving some of the stuff that I did. Now, I will say, though, our characters who get trapped are going to be Anita, portrayed by Smith. There's James by Flatters. There's Matthew by David Anglin. And then Melissa by Joelle Ray. And then the guy who is the host is going to be played by Haley. So it gives a baseline of our characters, and then we learn the true nature of them as our host pushes against everything. I love exposing that everybody has secrets. It turns out that our characters are shades of gray. I'll end this opening by saying that it feels inspired by Saw, with the torture for a reason aspect idea. I've also seen a few films using this game show narrative more recently. Now, with that set up, let's kind of delve into what we're getting here. And initially, this was believed to be a random group selected. The participants are notable for like James's frequent arguments, particularly with Matthew, whom he calls like a knight in shining armor. He's also the rich kid, so he kind of pushes buttons there. Anita warns James about his comments. Upon waking in the game, they bicker, blaming each other for their predicament, especially when the host forces them to reveal those secrets that I brought up. The more we learn about them and the host, the more that we see that this is a specific reason. Now let's talk about our characters, and I'll avoid spoilers here, but Haley is portraying Barry Miller. The only reveal that there is because he used to be a game show host and now he's out for revenge. I'll tread lightly to say that it is heartbreaking. It's also interesting to go that route with the climate change of allegations and not believing victims. It does feel like we're pushing a certain narrative that's a slippery slope. Regardless of where the intentions lie, Haley knocks this role out of the park. I think I want to stick then with talking about the acting performances. I've already said that Haley steals the show. Smith works in her role. What I like about her is that early on we know that she's our lead. She seems nice, and Matthew has a crush on her. We learn that somebody about her, or we learn more about her from the opening round of the game, and then even more beyond that. Flatters works as a jerk in the group. Anglin is the nice guy. His reveal is shocking, to be honest. I also like Ray. Other than that, we have some other people that are secondary stuff to help round out and fill out the story. All it's thought to be filmmaking, well made with effective, mostly practical effects, likely enhanced by CGI. Cinematography and framing hide imperfections that needed, so credit there. The warehouse basement setting has that grunge lighting is great. The backstory is not ideal, but the pacing of our revelation works for the story. I will say I absolutely love the brutal nature of the ending, plus the punishments made me cringe in the best way. In conclusion, this is a compelling and brutal horror film that takes inspiration from Saw franchise while carving its own niche with a game show narrative. Haley delivers a standout performance as the vengeful host, ably supported by the cast who portray characters with increasing moral ambiguity. While the backstory might be contentious for some, the film's effective practical effects, strong cinematography, and relentless pacing culminate in a truly cringeworthy and satisfying, brutal ending. It is a film that doesn't shy away from exposing dark secrets within its characters, making it a truly memorable experience. So my rating for Your Host is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. This is another one that I would keep an eye out, as I wouldn't be shocked if this hits VOD here soon. And then another one from Fright Fest is going to be Pig Hill from 2025, directed by Kevin Lewis, and it was written by Jared Burris, and this stars Rainey Qualley, Shane West, and Shiloh Fernandez. This is another horror film that is from the United States, currently sitting on a 6.3 on IMDb, and I'd say about a 2.5 to a 3-star over on Letterboxd with our synopsis being: Carrie has been fascinated by the local legend of the pig people of Pig Hill, revolting creatures who breed and cause havoc in the area. As a 10th woman goes missing, Carrie doesn't stop thinking about what could be more to these stories. So she's portrayed by Qualley. So this is a film I got a chance to see via screen, and once again, thanks to Kier from Strike Media. You know, being at Fright Fest is another thing, that, and being a 2025 horror film, and seeing that it starred Fernandez was kind of intriguing. I didn't even realize that Shane West was in this until I settled down to watch it and saw his name in the opening credits, as I don't think I looked that hard at the poster, but Fernandez's name popped off. So where I'm going to start is that this one place I wasn't fully expecting. I'll say some are good and bad. To start with the positives, I love this idea that there could be these weird hybrid pig people living in the wilds on this hill, and it almost feels like a cryptid. So no one wants to talk about it. It sounds far-fetched. There's more going on under the surface, and I love playing with expectations of generational trauma. Then to develop more of this, without going into spoilers, there are elements here very similar to like The Hills Have Eyes or The Offspring, where we have, like, in this one, we have pig-like creatures who are kidnapping women. This feels also, in part for like procreation. There's also some pleasure mixed in right there. And it also kind of goes back all the way to like Shawnee Bean, kind of what he did to build his family. The plot further explores elements reminiscent of the Satanic Panic era, revealing cult-like activities, and it's heartbreaking, but also explanatory, yet inexcusable. Now, that's where I want to kind of leave these ideas. Now, something else that I like is Carrie is wanting to write a book. She doesn't fully believe there are pig people, but she's more curious about why these women are disappearing in the area, and it seems to be more frequent lately. The extent of what she does, she can't disprove the theory yet, and then when she gets taken herself, that makes her even more intrigued and terrified, of course. There's just these unexplained disappearances, though. With things that she experiences, she starts to believe they could be real, and that's a little bit interesting along the journey that is made, so credit for that. Now, there's something enough for the story there. Let's transition over to the acting performances. Qualley delivers a strong one as a determined lead, believably navigating trauma to uncover the truth. I was pleasantly surprised by that, as also by West's snarky role. He's an actor I'm a fan of. I remember him from ER, and he's been in some of those teen comedies back when he was younger. My only issue here is Fernandez. He's not a bad actor. He just always plays an overbearing character that I don't like. The supporting cast effectively rounds us out for what they need here, so I'll give credit to Emma Kotos. She actually plays somebody in a cold open who gets taken herself. There's R.A. Mihailoff. I know he's been in some movies where he has been in other horror stuff before this. Olivia Allen is solid here. Olivia, it's her. There's also Isabella Brenza and how she kind of gets things rolling for that. And then Jeff Moynihan. So all the stuff that would be the filmmaking aspects, I have already given, credit to the practical effects. This goes brutal, and I appreciate that. My guess is that there is some CGI. It is blended well, so credit there. This is a tough subject with things that we see later. I will say that the cinematography and framing are good to not only capture the area that it's set up, but giving this small town feel. It also feels like the realism with the effects. Other than that, the sound design adds to the atmosphere, and the musical selection work. In conclusion, this delivers a unique and disturbing horror experience. While its narrative takes some unexpected turns, the film excels in its portrayal of unsettling pig people lore and the exploration of generational trauma. Strong performances, particularly from Qualley and West, and effective practical effects further elevate the viewing experience. Despite minor character gripes, the filmmaking aspects effectively build a tense and atmospheric small-town horror. So my rating here for Pig Hill, going to be a 7 out of 10, and once again, keep an eye out for VOD in this one, as I don't think there's anything as of yet that I can see. Then the last screener I have here for this episode from Fright Fest is going to be 213 Bones from 2025, directed by Jeffrey Pym, who also co-wrote this with Dominic Arcelin. This is starring Luna Fujimoto, Hunter Nance, and Tony Weiss. So this is a horror film from the United States. Currently sitting on a 6.1 on IMDb, and I would say about a 3-star movie over on Letterboxd, so a synopsis being: college students are brutally murdered by a gruesomely masked killer. It is left to Sheriff Bracco, Lori, and their teacher Kelly to find out who the real bone-crunching murderer is. So the sheriff is portrayed by Ernest Keith Walker, Lori by Francesca Barker McCormick, and then Kelly by Colin Egglesfield. So this is a film that I got the chance to see thanks to a screener from Kier from Strike Media. Again, Fright Fest. So I was intrigued to see more, and the title was something that caught my attention. I like how it plays into the narrative is something that I'll get into. Now, confirming that this was a horror film from 2025 was enough, so I came in blind, and I will say that the title, 213 Bones, is actually describing how many bones we have in the human body. So this is set in the 1990s. The story uses subtle clues like the character of Clyde, who is portrayed by Mason Kennerly. He has some comments about another character of Candace, who is portrayed by Weiss. Now, how she's stuck in the 80s. We have pagers, old cell phones, and era-specific posters and music. This creates nostalgia without a dated feel, highlighting a time where technology was less ubiquitous and often associated with drug dealers, and that's something I appreciate. Let's jump into what we're getting here. This is a slasher film at heart. Now, I tend to judge these. They either have to have good kills or characters. Let's start with the latter. We have a solid cast. I look at each of them, and we know who they are. These are all tropes, like the drug dealer, the dumb boyfriend, the smart girl, the nerdy guy, and the one who must work to stay in school. There's also the teacher who seems suspicious. Another one's a county coroner, her weird assistant and maintenance man for the college. So these are definitely playing homage to slasher films of the past. I'm actually going to go ahead and kind of give a little bit about each of those to kind of break it down for you. The smart girl is Lisa, portrayed by Fujimoto. The dumb boyfriend is Eric by Liam Woodrum. There's Lacey, I believe is his girlfriend of Sarah Brooks. No, sorry, Joanna is his girlfriend of Simon Lockhart. And then Lacey is another one here, portrayed by Brooks. And then there is Patty, who is Allegra Sweeney. She's the one who is working to kind of stay into school. There's another one of Jill, who's Elizabeth O'Brien. And then there's Brent, who's kind of a nerdy guy himself. And then Clyde is the drug dealer. And they also have this older guy in class of Bob, portrayed by Dean Cameron. And then I'll also say here that Lori is the county coroner, and then their teacher is played by Kelly, who is Kelly, portrayed by Egglesfield. So let's jump into those acting performances. Fujimoto is good as our lead. She plays well off of Nance, and I'll lump in here Weiss, Sweeney, Lockhart, Kennerly, Woodrum, and O'Brien. An interesting group that we have here, that Candace accuses Clyde of being the serial killer. Candace is the one who's stuck in the 80s, of course, being a killer. There are little things that just make sense. It also kind of gives it a Scooby-Doo or an Agatha Christie feel when you factor in Walker, McCormick, and those ones. Actually, I realized I didn't even introduce those characters. I did, some of them at least. Because McCormick, of course, is Lori, and then Walker is Ernest Walker. Also brought him up, that's the sheriff. And then there is Cameron, Egglesfield, and Ted Dowling as victims, as well as red herrings. The cast fits where it was needed for a movie like this. So let's go over then to filmmaking aspects. The killer's mask, resembling an ancient stone heads, was a standout. It's intriguing that anthropology students are being targeted, especially with the masks being used, so it's a connecting idea there. Cinematography, framing, soundtrack, and design were all effective. Despite a limited range of kills, the killer's precision was notable. The film's sub-90-minute runtime was appreciated for this slow burn slasher. So before I finish this out, let's go over one last thing for the story. The potential victims will find a bone before they're attacked. That's an interesting idea to correlate back to this exam that they're taking with this class, since they're anthropology students, is that the teacher of Kelly has put out a skeleton, there's extra bones, and there's also animal bones kind of mixed in, so they have to figure out what's real, what's not, and then reconnect the skeleton. It's a solid touch to go with the theme. So in conclusion, this is a slasher film that was effectively blends classic tropes with a nostalgic 90s setting. While it might not deliver in the abundance of gruesome kills, its strength lies in its well-developed characters, compelling whodunit mystery, and a memorable killer design. The performances are solid across the board, and the filmmaking aspects contribute to a suspenseful and engaging viewing experience. Clocking in at around 90 minutes, it's a tight and enjoyable slow-burn horror that pays homage to its genre predecessors. So for me, for 213 bones, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. And it should be on VOD here in the nearest future. And then my last mini review here is going to be my rewatch of Frewaka. This is my 2025 Voyage to the Fives rewatch thing that I'm doing here. And this is going to be written and directed by Aslan Clark. This is starring Brittany Noctane, Claire Monelly, and Alexandra Berger-Hitskaya. If I mispronounced that, I do apologize. But this is a folk horror film from Ireland. Currently sitting on a 6.1 on IMDb and a 3.3 on Letterboxd, or synopsis being: follow a student of nursing palliative care who is plagued by trauma from her past that is a disorienting effect on her present, her relationship, her career, and her ability to function. So for this one here, I did a featured review back on episode, let me go ahead, I didn't pull this up because I'm kind of in a rush here, and this one was back on episode 289, which is Voyage to the Fives number 8, that had 291, which was Centennial Club number 20, where I had this paired up with The Bear's Wedding. So if you want to hear a featured review, I'll direct you over there. But this one follows the character of Shu, portrayed by Monelly. She's the nursing student who's specializing in, it almost seems like, this is borderline hospice care here, as she is assigned to care for an elderly woman named Pieg, portrayed by Noctane. Now, Pieg suffers from dementia and hallucinations and claims that fairies took her to the underworld when she was younger, leaving her with severe back scars. Shu is dealing with her own past trauma with her mother with a similar history, and she begins to question if Peg's illusions are real or a familial mental illness that's at play. The story also explores themes of generational trauma, the mistreatment of women in Ireland is kind of more of a social commentary there, and the clash between traditional and modern society. So I give this praise for its compelling folk horror experience, its unsettling atmosphere, and its strong performances from Noctane and Monelly. The cinematography and sound design are also highlights for me, as it's effective in building the tension. So for this one here, I've actually settled on this. I think I came up half a point here, as I now give Frewaka an 8 out of 10, so I'd recommend that one. It's over on Shudder if you want to check it out. So that's all I have here for mini reviews. Let me go ahead and get you over to the trailer of my first featured review.
So why do you need a Catholic priest?
About 2 years ago, I started investigating the deaths of the Carmichael family. The lineage of all these people leads back to a smashed pickup truck along Route 103 in 1989.
You want to exorcise the Carmichael.
Our family's killed that poor girl. Now we're forced to pay the price for it.
Everyone in that truck was eventually hunted down.
You're all going to be punished.
You still haven't told me everything that happened to you at the Abaddon Hotel.
Whatever was in that hotel, it's out now. It's among us.
What does this have to do with me? I'm not from here.
That one mistake has bonded so many of us for years. It's a blood bond.
In that vanished abode, there far apart, on that disused, forgotten road, night comes. The black bats tumble and dart. By the power of our Lord Jesus Christ,
We can dine here.
They're coming for you.
God the Son commands you.
Pray to him, you'll never come back.
And for my first feature review here is going to be Hell House LLC Lineage. This is from 2025, written and directed by Stephen Cognetti. This stars Elizabeth Vermilye, Sierra Saka, and Mike Sutton, while also featuring here the likes of Joe Bendelli, Kayla Berejinkia, Victoria Andurunka, Gideon Berger, Bridget Rose Perotti, Destiny Liani Brown, Nicholas Dozer, Emily Fawn, Michael Caproli, Felicia Curry, Kenneth Andrew, Matthew Dalton Lynch, Bo Bogle, Marlena Williams, and Robert Savakinis. And if I mispronounce any of those names, I do apologize. But this is a horror film that is from the United States, that is currently sitting on a 5.0 on IMDb, and none of ratings on Letterboxd, but I would say like a 2 to like a 3-star movie over there. And the synopsis: after a near-death experience, Vanessa Shepard faces nightmares. As mysterious deaths occur around her, she discovers her connection to the Abaddon Hotel, Carmichael Manor, and decades of unexplained murders and disappearances. Go ahead and say that Vanessa is portrayed once again by Vermilye, as she is reprising her role from, I believe, the third film in this one, Lake of Fire. So this one I was intrigued to see. I was late to the series. I liked the first one and then enjoyed the next two. It was the last film that I thought was closer to a return to form for that original. Now, seeing that there was going to be one more, I was curious to see what they would do. So Tammy from Spotlight PR sent over a screener. I actually didn't even watch it because I got to catch this at the Gateway Film Center, in the theater, which is, my preferred way of seeing things. So let's do some featured notes. I'll start with the director of Cognetti. He's helmed 6 films, all in genre. 5 are the series, and then they're all ones that I've seen. So he has one other one here in this year. It's called 825 Forest Road. On my list to check out. We have an assistant director here of Cameron Munson. He's done this role for 5 films, and I've seen 4. All are the sequels in the series. And he's also has one from last year called Another Cabin in the Woods, which I have not seen as of yet. So Cognetti is also our writer. He has written the same films that he's directed. Now to the cast. First we'll start with Vermilye. She's been in 4 features and 1 short. I've seen her in part 3 of the series, Lake of Fire, as I was saying. She is reprising her role from that. But she was also in the director's other film of 825 Forest Road. Now, our co-star of Sokka has been in 6 movies and 3 shorts. I've seen her in this and the previous film in the series. That would be Hell House LLC, The Carmichael Manor. Now, she was also in Bitter Taste of Ginger, which I had not heard of. Now, last will be Sutton. He's been in 14 motion pictures and 4 shorts. I've seen 2. He was also in The Honeymoons Phase, which is a horror-adjacent film in my opinion. 5 he's done are officially in genre. He was in 825 Forest Road, Back Road Epidemic, and a fan film for My Bloody Valentine of Valentine Bluff, something like that. So then, let's jump into this film here, and we start with seeing Catherine Carmichael, who is portrayed by Berejinkia, filming her siblings leaving with a handheld camera. What's interesting here is that we shift away to a traditional filming style. It then shifts to viewing for Margaret, portrayed by Andurunka. Now, she was killed in a car accident, which left her brother Patrick, who is portrayed by Berger, and he's in a kind of a depressed state. He says some odd things to Catherine, not handling his greed well. It then jumps a few years into the future. We see Troy, portrayed by Andrew, leaving a county fair. His attention is drawn to an attraction when the lights come on. He sees money sitting on a counter. He goes around back, finds a door, and goes inside. This turns terrifying when the lights turn off and the shutters close. He is trapped inside with the clown from the Abaddon Hotel, portrayed by Bendelli. We then meet our lead of Vanessa. She's struggling with her ordeal from the Abaddon Hotel. She has vivid nightmares of that place, the Carmichael Manor, and of another house with a large cross outside of it. She is working with Dr. Farrell, portrayed by Felicia Curry, to overcome these issues. It is during this session that she learns about Bobby Hopewell, portrayed by Bogle. Now, he was also a survivor and dealing with similar issues. These two cross paths as she is leaving. So Vanessa heads to a restaurant, discussing missing liquor bottles with her employee of Max, portrayed by Stozer. Now, he's a town local, so she asks him about Bobby. So Alicia Canavelli, portrayed by Sokka, then arrives, trying to convince Vanessa about the evil of the Abaddon and Carmichael Manor. Now, she dismisses this until Bobby is affected, and she starts to be stalked by the clown. So let's leave my recap and introduction of the characters. Where I want to start is that this feels a bit incomplete to me. What it feels like is more of like a bridge movie that connects all the sequels. I don't hate that idea. The problem is that I don't think I can revisit this one by itself ever again, and I almost feel like this is a problem with this movie here is it doesn't stand alone. I've seen every film in the series once. I do have plans to revisit the original one here in October, but this series feels like one that I need to binge all the way through in order for me to fully appreciate this film. So now that it's set up, let's look at the story here. I do need to reference that this is the first found footage entry in it, and that's what the trivia that I found on the IMDb page was going to be also, so, that's done there. So this is creatively showing what characters in other films were filming from outside of that perspective. Like, we are seeing them from almost like a fly on the wall type thing. So this is filling in like narrative gaps and making it the last in the timeline while jumping into the past still. I appreciate the non-linear timeline. It is through this that my issue arises. This feels like it's expanded out short that doesn't add much to the overall story. I think part of my problem is that the route they're going here has already been done with part 2, and then elements of that factor into part 3. This does well in connecting the origin story of the Carmichael Manor. There are threads in that prequel, and I think that this strengthens that. My biggest issue is that the ending was abrupt, and from everything that I'm seeing, this is supposed to be a send-off to the series, and it doesn't feel like it. Let's then elaborate on the filmmaking aspects. Transitioning from found footage to a traditional filming style for the franchise's final film is a bold yet effective choice, filling in narrative gaps and advancing the present story. The cinematography and framing are commendable, using the full frame to encourage viewer engagement. So the film is limited and likely practical effects are seamlessly integrated, so credit there. Sound design and musical selections effectively build atmosphere, while jump scares that are present, they align with the subgenre in general. This does run too long though. I think trimming this to around 90 minutes would be beneficial. All that's left into the acting performances. Found footage would have made it more forgivable. Vermillion excels as a woman who descends into madness, a sympathetic portrayal there because of everything that she's dealing with, and she's trying to get better and trying to overcome things, but kind of still just sinking deeper into it. Sokka is convincing as his truth seeker. Her reaction at the climax though feels off to me, doesn't necessarily fully work. Mike Sutton as Father David, and then the returning Carmichaels of Berezhenka, Andrunka, and Berger are all solid. Bendelli's creepy portrayal of the subtle moving clown is terrifying. He's supposed to be like a mannequin at times, and then just little things he does. And what freaks me out is that you can almost see him breathing, but you don't necessarily know if you are or not. So the other cast members are a little bit inconsistent, while overacting makes it feel uneven. So I don't have much that I'm going to kind of do here. So in conclusion, this serves as an intriguing, albeit somewhat incomplete bridge connecting the previous films in the series. While its departure from found footage allows for a broader narrative scope and fills in crucial backstory, the non-linear timeline and abrupt ending leave it feeling like an expanded short rather than a definitive conclusion. Despite some inconsistent acting performances, the strong leads, effective filmmaking, and terrifying portrayal of the clown elevate the experience. Ultimately, this is best viewed as a part of a series binge to fully appreciate its contribution to the overarching mythology. I just don't feel like this one fully kind of works on its own here. And I do kind of feel bad because this is definitely a short review that I'm doing here, but there's not really a whole lot more that I can go into here. So my rating for Hell House LLC Lineage is a 6 out of 10. And this one should be hitting Shudder, if I remember everything correctly here, in the nearish future. So if you're a big fan of the series and kind of want to check this one out to see what it does here, I would recommend it. But I'm not going to do a spoiler section, not going to do anything like that, so let me get you over to the trailer of my second featured review.
My girl. I didn't do it, I tell you, I swear I didn't do it. William Corder, I arrest you for the murder of Mariah Martin. Let me go, let me go. I'll drop the first man who tries to stop me. Not so brave, eh? There's only one charge in that pistol, Corder. At best you can but kill one of us, then you'll be taken. Yes, but which will be the one? You, Martin, eh? Would you like to go and join your beautiful Mariah? Oh, don't stare at me like that, Mariah. You've trapped me. Your hands are reaching out from the grave, dragging me down, down. Ah, but you're too late. You're too late. He's mad. Close your eyes, Mariah. Close them. They haunt me. Oh, I can didn't want to kill you, but you forced me to. You forced me to. You forced me to. She made me do it, I tell you! She made me do it! She made me do it! She made me do it! Would you like to look upon your executioner? Yes. You! I warned you, Corder. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and blood for blood.
And for my second feature review here is going to be Maria Marten, or The Murder in the Red Barn. This is from 1935. This is directed by Milton Rosmer. It was written by Randall Fay, and then this is starring Todd Slaughter, Sophie Stewart, and DJ Williams, while also featuring here Claire Greet, Eric Portman, Gerard Tyrell, Ann Trevor, Antonia Bro, Quentin McPherson, Dennis Huey, Stella Rowe, Herbert Leonard, Adele Inge, Noel Dayton, J. Leslie Firth, Tom Payne, Leonard Sharp, and Lester Sharp. So this is a crime drama film that is from the United Kingdom. It is currently sitting on a 5.9 on IMDb and a 3.1 on Letterboxd, with our synopsis being: in 1820s rural England, a young girl is tricked by a villainous squire's marriage, and when she becomes pregnant and disappears, a Romani lad is blamed. So this is one that I found when compiling my list of horror from 1935. The title was long, which always kind of piques my interest. I was able to find this streaming on Tubi, which made it easy to seek out. Now, this isn't listed as horror on IMDb. It is on Letterboxd, but I'm still going to include it in my research for that reason there. So before I jump into the movie, let's do some featured notes. I'll start with our director, Rosmer. He has done this role in 14 films. This is the first I've seen. Technically the only one he did in genre, even though, like I said, Letterboxd doesn't consider it that way. We have two assistant directors. First is Leo T. Croak. This was his only credit. Then the other one was Pat Walker, who did 2 works. This is the only one in genre. Now our writer is Faye. He did this for 30 movies and 5 shorts. This is the only one in horror. Then let's look at Slaughter and the cast. He was in 14 features and 7 shorts. 9 are in genre. This is the first one I've seen. He was also in the 1936 version of Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, The Face at the Window, and Crimes at the Dark House, which are the top 3 that I haven't seen. Over to his co-star of Stewart. She was in 21 motion pictures. I've seen 2. Not horror, but sci-fi. She was in Things to Come, which I have seen that one. I think that one's kind of more like a documentary style. Now, she has 3 in genre. First that I've seen, she was in Devil Girl from Mars and Uncle Silas. Then last will be Williams. He was in 44 films. I've seen him in 3, all in horror. He did 7 of total in horror. I've seen this. He was in the version that I just recently covered of Scrooge. And he's also in The Ghost Train from 1941. I have not seen the 36 version of Sweeney Todd yet. The Man Who Lived Again, I think that stars Boris Karloff. I have not seen The Crimes of Stephen Hawke and The Pointing Finger as the other ones. All right, let's jump into this one. Now, it's an interesting way to start. We see members of an orchestra, and a man comes out on stage to introduce the cast. It then jumps into the story. We're at the Red Barn from the title. This is a place where people in this village come to have a party and stuff. So there's merriment and dancing. We have Maria Marten, portrayed by Stewart, has caught the interest of Carlos, who is Portman. So Carlos is actually the Romani guy. Now this one kind of refers to him as gypsies, but I'm going to go the more proper way. So this upsets her father of Thomas, portrayed by Williams. She's also caught the interest of a local squire of William Corden, portrayed by Slaughter. We then see her at home. She's talking to her mother, Mrs. Marten, portrayed by Greet. She tells her that she's off to choir practice, so that'd be Maria to her mother. In reality, she goes to the home of Corder. It cuts away and goes back to her place where her father returns. His wife tells him where Maria has gone, which causes him to pause. He knows that the practice has been canceled. He believes she's gone off with Carlos. Now he seeks out the local magistrate, who just turns out to be Corder. Now his daughter had already left by that point. So on her way home, though, she is stopped by Carlos. This encounter puts her father in a rage, as he assumes they've been together the whole time. Thomas tells this to Quarter, whose hands are tied. You can't do anything there yet. He's already told Maria that he plans to marry her, and so he remembers what Thomas told him. We then see Quarter gambling with friends. They're playing, my guess, is like an early form of craps where they literally have a cup with some dice in it. They're rolling them and everything. Now, Quarter loses and then tries to win his money back. He loses again, to which he immediately requests double or nothing. He's told that if he loses this round, he'll be in ruin. That's what happens, and he does have a plan, though. He asks Maud Sennett, portrayed by Bra, to marry him. She has a large sum of money that she will inherit, and her dowry is enough to cover his debts as well. Upon learning of this plan, this puts Maria into a depression, even more so that she reveals to her mother that she's with child. She hasn't revealed this to her father, or who the father is. Now, Thomas overhears and kicks her out of the house. She seeks refuge with Quarter, who wants her to leave at once. He will meet up with her later, he tells her. So as she goes, though, she gives him an ultimatum. Marry her or she'll reveal that he's the father. He comes up with a dastardly plan, having Carlos depended on. There's evidence that is left behind that could incriminate him if he can't get back to it before it's found. So that's really my recap of the characters. Where I want to start is that the gimmick of introducing the actors ahead of the story is kind of an interesting one. Kind of makes you think of things like Frankenstein, where they would actually have like Edward Van Sloan come out and kind of warn the audience of things. It doesn't necessarily hurt or hinder the overall product. This wouldn't shock me to learn that it was originally a stage production. I did end up finding, after I wrote that down, that's the case. We have like limited sets, and how the story is crafted would lend well to it. It does appear that this also is based on a true crime thing that happened as well. I'm actually going to go ahead and jump over to that trivia real quick and kind of talk about that. So this is adapted from the play that is based on the real-life murder case from 1828. Although the play and the film presently is a highly sensationalized, sentimental version of the story. The real Maria Marten was hardly the innocent, virginal young thing as seen here. By the time of her murder, she had already borne 2 children out of wedlock and was notoriously free with her affections. She had also had a child by Quarter with whom she was having a consensual affair, which either died or was murdered. The character of the other good lover is complete fiction. Marten's stepmother claimed to have dreams of Maria's ghost, leading her to the spot where the body was later found. Later researchers have speculated the stepmother, only a few years older than Maria, was an accomplice of the murder. Quarter was around the same age as Maria. The Victorian melodramas made him into an older man, very much a stereotypical upper-crust villain. Much was written about it at the time, with fascination with the case continued well into the 20th century. So just kind of wanted to share that there. I'm not going to victim blame either side here, but it does sound like this was sensationalized to make it a more interesting story. Let's delve into what we're getting here, though. Maria loves Carlos and Quarter. At least I think so. Now, Quarter is wealthy and important, making an intriguing choice for Maria. He promises her marriage and to move to London. It does seem that she shares a more natural connection with Carlos, but this group seems nomadic, which introduces a racial barrier as well, him being Romani. Thomas is upset about the relationship, more than likely due to racism. There's another element here with Quarter. He seems to make lofty promises to Maria. Does do that. There's gaslighting that comes with that. Thomas and the other people in town look up to him. Part of that's due to him being wealthy. He's also a squire in the local magistrate. These are all things that he can use to manipulate people. It is interesting to bring back Thomas when he comes to Quarter, telling him of his suspicions, when he's talking to, and he's the one that's actually done these things. Now, Thomas thinks it's Carlos that has, but it's kind of interesting that Quarter's getting this inside information without even really trying. That also adds to the tension. So that should be enough for the story. Let's go over to the acting performances. The film excels as a character study of Quarter, who initially appears respectable and caring towards Maria before his true nature is revealed. Stewart portrays Maria as a naive young woman who eventually asserts herself, and that ends up leading to her ruin. Williams' performance as a harsh yet loving father adds to the heartbreak. Portman effectively portrays a character who genuinely cares for Maria. The supporting cast, including Greek, complete the ensemble. So also left out for a little bit more trivia is going to be filmmaking aspects. Now this is where I think it's limited due to the technology and the year the time that it was made. The framing and cinematography are fine. Like I've said, this feels like a stage play that's just expanded. They do capture the era that it was set. This is limited in the effects used. I did like the matching pistols that Quarter has. The only other thing would be the music and the sound design were fine. Doesn't necessarily stand out or hurt the overall product in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and just say here, Todd Slaughter was 49 when he made his film debut here. The villain's scalp is still on exhibit at the Bury St. Edmunds Museum, which is weird. The real Red Barn where Maria Marten was murdered in 1828 was the village of Polstead, Suffolk, UK. Baroness Rendell Bauberg lives there now. She is better known as the crime writer Ruth Rendell. And then the earliest telecast in the United States for this one was in Los Angeles on Sunday, the 27th of February in 1949. So in conclusion, this offers a compelling, albeit tragic narrative of deception and manipulation. While its origins are possible stage production are clear in its structure and limited sets, the film effectively conveys its 1820s English setting and the dramatic unfolding of events. The strong character performances, particularly Slaughter's portrayal of the villainous Quarter, elevate the story and provide a nuanced exploration of human nature. Despite technological limitations of its time, the film remains a noteworthy piece that skillfully blends character study with a gripping true crime-inspired plot, making it a surprisingly engaging watch. So my rating then for Maria Marten, or The Murder in the Red Barn, is going to be a 7 out of 10. Don't need to do a spoiler section. There's not anything necessarily deeper I need to do there, so let me go ahead and get you over to one last break before I close out the show. And I have a great offer here that I wanted to go ahead and extend to all you listeners out there for oldglory.com. This is a place where you can get over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans, featuring officially licensed merch from iconic bands and top sports teams. Discover your perfect fan gear and save with my exclusive discount. And that is going to be Cinephile 1. But here you get a 15% discount off of any product, and this is exclusive for something that I'm doing and for what has been offered to me. And I mean, this has things like artists here, Bob Marley, the Beatles, Grateful Dead, the Rolling Stones, Metallica, and more. We also have sports fans have stuff here for your favorite teams with official gear from the NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, and NCAA, showcasing your team pride in style. And they even have some stuff here that celebrate, entertainment, TV shows, movies, lifestyle brands, and it means some quirky gifts to fan favorite apparel. There's something for everybody. With free standard shipping and same day order processing, Old Glory delivers fast and reliable service with every purchase. Whether shopping for yourself or looking for a perfect gift, Old Glory is your one-stop shop for iconic, high-quality merch that reflects your love for music and sports, as well as like pop culture. And I mean, kind of just running through some of this stuff. This is a family-owned superstore since 1969. They're known for their quality and customer service. You can get exclusive selection of graphic tees, hoodies, hats, and accessories. Represent your favorite sports team with official fan gear. Discover quirky gifts, like I was saying, and fun pop culture apparel. Perfect place to shop for, this type of stuff. And there's a vast selection of entertainment-themed products, including movies and TV shows if you're not necessarily into some of the other things. And enjoy reliable and fast service with Old Glory's commitment to customer satisfaction, the ultimate source for high-quality, licensed fan merchandise for all ages. Like I said, my promo code is going to be Cinephile1, all one word. So if you're kind of interested, go ahead and check out their website here in my show notes, as I'll have I actually have more details down there for you as well.
Are you looking for a movie podcast with deep dives, interviews, and thoughtful film analysis?
We ain't got none of that. What do we got?
You want to hold the bucket?
Right, I'll hold the bucket, sit in the cuff chair.
There with I will never blink. I'll just be there holding the bucket.
I will never blink on her drapes, most likely. You look like a drape jizzer.
R.I.P. that sweet, sweet pussy.
It is known that Jessica Tandy had the sweetest pussy in Hollywood.
If you don't know, Google it. Don't Google Jessica Tandy's pussy, you guys. Don't do it. Don't do it. Doom Generation.
Available anywhere you find podcasts.
And welcome back. So if you'd like to send me any sort of feedback, anything you want read on the show, or any screener requests, anything like that, you can send those to journeywithacinephile@gmail.com. If you'd like to read any of my written reviews or see any of the old past podcast episodes, all of that is being stored over at Journey with a Cinephile. That is my blog, and that's going to be horrorreview.webnode.com. If you'd like to follow me and become friends on Facebook, it's going to be David Garrett Jr. is my name over on there. There's going to be a link in the show notes. And then if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's going to be Buckeye from Mish. And then if you'd like to follow my Letterboxd page, where I have all of my reviews, whether that is going to be horror or non-horror, that's going to be David OSU is my name on that. Instagram and Threads, I'm David OSU87. Over on my personal Instagram page, you might see some of my family stuff every now and then whenever I remember to post something. My wife is much better at it than I am. But then if you'd like to follow the Journey with a Cinephile Instagram, that's going to be Journey with a Cinephile, all one word. And then also direct you, if you'd like, to the Discord channel. That's going to be the Nightclub Discord, but I have a page over there. And there's also some other great pages of other shows and them kind of messing around and everything like that. Do highly recommend if you want to go ahead and check that out. And then the last thing I'll actually say here, if you would like to listen to the show a day early, this is always going to be streaming over there on the Pod Nation TV app. So I will have, once again, a link in the show notes for that if that is something that you're interested in. So, yeah, there's some great stuff here. There's some great shows on some of these other networks and stuff. I highly recommend checking them out. And for my next episode, we're going to be sticking with doing our Voyage to the Five stuff here. And I know the 1935 film was going to be Angkor. I actually was going to be something else. I realized the other one is actually a 1936 film, so I did make a little bit of pivot there, which actually worked out before I started watching everything. And then for the 2025 film, I think right now I'm going to be watching Until Dawn, just because I have some things going on. I don't necessarily know if I can get to the Gateway Film Center. I do want to see the new Toxic Avenger movie, so that'll either be on this episode or more than likely be on the next episode. We'll kind of see how everything plays out there. So then for my Voyage to the Fives rewatch is going to be The Ice Cream Man from 1995, and then I have some more screeners I need to check out, and I might be getting close to that. I know upcoming here would be Hooptober. We're not there as of yet, so, and I'm not sure what my 2025 rewatch is going to be. I don't know if Jamie and I are going to be able to check out something, but if not, it'll end up being The Surrender. Either way, there'll be one of those on there for you. So I don't think there's anything else to say in this outro except that wraps up this episode of Journey with a Cinephile, a horror movie podcast. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of horror cinema. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow along for more deep dives into the macabre. Until next time, keep watching horror, and remember, fear is just a frame away.
It had been a wonderful evening, and what I needed now to give it the perfect ending